Hi, this is Matt, the coaching guy here. I thought I'd come on and just talk a little bit more broadly about leadership in this day and age. I work with a lot of senior leaders day in, day out. And I guess one of the things that we're talking about is how do you care and demonstrate care for the team with the amount of information that's coming down within an organization, the amount of reports that are out there, trying to connect with the team on a one-to-one basis. You've got the marriage of, in the office, hybrid working, remote working. All of those things are really relevant for how leadership has had to evolve over time. And I think the historic leadership, mainly in offices, would have been about understanding an individual's personal circumstance. The holidays, the weekends, the dogs' names, the children's names. All of this personal information that you could then call upon to be able to connect on a deeper level with people. Now, that becomes a lot of information for a single leader to be able to hold on to and recall over time to be able to forge those relationships. And so I think that those things are still relevant, they're very human, but become less relevant. I think what is more relevant these days is being able to connect with them and know that you care as a leader, both mentally and physically. You've also got this bit about how do we make sure that there's enough time invested in them as an individual, quality time, not just check-ins, not 5 phone calls that are 5 minutes a week. If it's going to be quality and it can go out to being a monthly conversation that's about the individual, not about the tasks, then that works. I think there's, obviously workload needs to come into this, the amount of pressure around project delivery, boundaries and contracting conversations that are still very relevant. But that's a good point in that, which is unless you are contracting and understanding who they are as an individual, what their individual needs are, we're talking about different generations working under one leader and how they respond to a leader, and a leader's need to be able to lead and act differently in amongst those cohorts is so critical these days. You've got some other things, which is, the triggers and emotions that each individual has. How do you understand what buttons to press, which will be super supportive and equally challenging? You've got experience and exposure across an organization. How do you use succession planning, talent mapping to be able to release your people for a season to gain the broader knowledge or capability that they need to be able to step up into your position or across the organization to support the needs of a growing business? But you need regular, honest feedback. That's not happening these days. There's not enough honesty. There's too much hidden agenda. I think we need to get back to some real, honest and transparent conversations, letting people know what's happening in 6 or 12 months' time, and making sure that they've got an individual, clear career path that's being invested in as well. But a responsibility for any leader, as we all know, is to make sure that beyond the direct team, that there's positive self-talk around those individual names that helps profile them beyond the current positions. Rather than holding on to them thinking, this is important to me. It's important to that individual to be released at some points where there's capability beyond what they're currently doing. And it has to be a fair and consistent approach across the board. No favoritism, allowing people to step in your absence, making sure that you've got this opportunity over the 5 or 7 weeks that you might be out of the business to make sure that there's continuity of trade. Who's stepping in with what decisions, and the responsibility to make sure that things are done without you being there. So that said and done, I think there's a difference between the personal stuff and the really human stuff. And if you throw into the mix, obviously, how people work these days, the connections really should be on a deeper level about who they are at work, what do they need, what's the support that's being provided, are you doing it consistently and showing up for them, and do they know that you care? And I think if you can frame it in that way, you'll worry less about the retention of information and being really personal with them, and making sure as an individual that at work that you're playing to strengths, that you're supporting them in a unique way that they need it. So look, hopefully that's helpful. As a discussion point, I'd love to hear your views in the comments, so please drop them in accordingly. But if you like this kind of content, want to get into some more conversations and debate, do drop a message to me at matt@thecoachingguy.co.uk, and we'll have some further debate and conversations that I can bring back to the table as well. Look, have a great day, and bye for now.